Hey guys, welcome to my first Workshop Wednesday video. Now, this is a series of videos that I've been thinking about doing for a while, and it will essentially be some of those little maintenance jobs that our bikes need every now and then, but because we need to do them so infrequently, we don't always remember how to do them. Well, hopefully, I'm here to help with that. Now, I won't be doing these videos every Wednesday, but when I do a maintenance style video, it will almost certainly go out on a Wednesday. Now, to start off, you may well have seen my previous video where I'm overhauling this beautiful fixed speed bike that my friend Liam graciously gifted me a couple of months ago. And as part of that, I need to replace this extremely rusty freewheel on the back wheel. Now, this isn't a particularly difficult job, but it does require a specialist tool, and actually depending on the type of freewheel sprocket you've got, there may be a number of different tools that you need, but I'll go through that in a minute. So let's get this on the table and start going through it. Oh, actually, before we start that, one little thing to say is that obviously the first job you're going to need to do when taking your freewheel sprocket off is that you're going to need to take the wheel off. Now, I've already done that as part of stripping this bike down, and I've already taken the front chainring and the chain off. However, when you're taking your back wheel off, it's always advisable just to slide the chain into the rear dropout here, and that will stop it dragging on the floor and picking up any dirt, dust, or anything else on the floor that you don't want on your chain. That's tip number one. Let's get back to the wheel. Okay, so the very first job you need to do is figure out what type of freewheel you have and therefore what type of tool attachment you need. Now, I'm not an expert at this, but I will leave a video up in the corner which will take you to the Park Tool cassette and freewheel tool identifier video, and Calvin Jones will be able to explain it in much greater detail and much better than I can. However, I figured out that I needed the Park Tool FR6, so I went ahead and bought that. That's the tool there. It's got those 4 splines that fit into the 4 recesses in my freewheel. So once you have your correct tool, lay your wheel down, insert your freewheel removal tool, and then what I find handy to do is actually use one of the wheel nuts to secure the tool in place. That way, when you're trying to twist it with your spanner, you're not going to find that the tool slips and falls out and you end up scraping your knuckles up on the spokes. Believe me, I've done that enough times. It's not a nice thing to do. You want to avoid it. So it doesn't need to be tight down on there. You don't need to tighten that bolt down too far. You just want to be able to hold that tool in place. Now, once that's in place, you get your adjustable spanner or any kind of spanner that fits the tool that you've got. And then this one turns in the standard fashion, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, so you can immediately start turning anti-clockwise to remove it. Now, here comes the important bit. You might think, oh, well, I can just keep turning that and it will come off. However, you'll find at some point it will start to get tight again and you'll think, that's strange, why is that happening? And you'll really start to graunch down on it and you'll think, why is it not coming off? It was loose. Now, what's happening here is as the freewheel is unscrewing from the hub, it's effectively raising away from the wheel. And what that's doing is it's pinching the tool between the nut that you've put on and the freewheel itself. And eventually what you'll find is that the axle that goes through the middle of the hub will start spinning as well, as essentially you've clamped the whole thing and you're turning the whole axle out. Now, you want to avoid doing that because that's going to cause problems with the cup and cone bearings inside, and you're going to end up with then some excessive play in the axle backwards and forwards. So once you feel it just a little bit starting to go a little tight, it's just turn the freewheel a quarter of the way back, loosen the nut off, take off your freewheel removal tool, and then you can turn it off by hand, and that no longer impacts on the axle going through the hub. So there we go, there is our freewheel off, and as you can see, that is incredibly rusty. That's been on there quite some time, sat outside, and it will be good to replace it with a brand new module. Now, although there is a lot of rust on this, if you know me well enough, you know that I hate unnecessary waste. So actually what I'm going to try and do is remove the bearings from inside here, and I will clean them all out, I'll re-grease it all, and then I'll throw this in some Evaporust overnight to take off most of this rust. And actually my friend Liam, who I got this bike off of, told me that he'd only ridden this bike twice. So there is absolutely no wear on this freewheel whatsoever. So it would be a real shame just to throw it away just because of a bit of rust that won't really affect the performance of it at all. So as I say, I'll throw this in some Evaporust, I'll remove all the bearings from inside, and I should be able to overhaul this and use this again at a later date. So now once you've got your freewheel off, take the opportunity to just clean up the threads. You may not be able to see it on the video, but there are quite a few spider's webs that have built up around here. Again, Liam told me that after he'd ridden it twice, he largely kept it stored undercover, but in his garden. So a number of creepy crawlies and other bugs and insects have had their wicked way with this, but that hub now looks pretty clean. And as ever, whenever you're putting any metal parts back together again that are going to contact with each other, a liberal helping of grease will always stop them fusing together and will help if you ever need to take them off in the future. So once you've greased it all up, it's time to put your new Freewheel on, and this is the new one that I've gone for. I've actually gone for a 16 tooth sprocket, whereas the old one I took off was an 18 tooth, just because I fancied a slightly higher gearing, but I may live to regret that once I start getting out on the bike and riding it. However, this shows you the importance of identifying the correct freewheel removal tool, because as you can see, this one has only got 2 notches either side of it, whereas the old one has the 4. So if I ever do want to take this freewheel off, I'm going to need a new tool for it, but that's fine. I'm going to put it on now. I can order the tool online, and hopefully I won't have to take it off in the next couple of days until that tool arrives. So once you've got your new freewheel, it just screws on in the normal fashion, and once it's on as far as you can tighten it with your fingers, this is where your chain whip comes in, and you put the chain whip on and then give it a good tighten. That should do it. Now, you don't need to worry about tightening it too much, because as you ride and the chain starts pulling it round, it will self-tighten anyway. So don't worry too much about graunching that on, because again, the last thing you want to do is for your chain whip to slip and for you to scrape the skin off of your knuckles on the spokes. And that is essentially it. Now, there is a little bit more you could do in regards to taking the axle out, checking the bearings inside, cleaning them up, re-greasing them. But this wheel actually doesn't feel too bad, so I'm going to leave this one for now. You could also change the fixed wheel sprocket on the other side. You'll see that this one has got slight rusty pitting on it. However, I don't envisage that I'm going to use this side that often. And again, it's hardly been used before, so I don't see any need to change this just now. However, I will do another video at a later date on how to change this over and how to remove the cup and cone bearings from inside the hub and overhaul them as well. And that may well be the next Workshop Wednesday video, because I haven't been quite so lucky with the front wheel, which is very, very difficult to turn and very crunchy. So there you go, one completed freewheel removal and reinstallation. Fairly simple job, but the one thing to remember is to get the correct freewheel removal tool, because otherwise you'll have an absolute nightmare getting off. Now, like many things, you probably could try and bodge some kind of tool, or maybe get a screwdriver in there to try and remove it. But by doing that, you're more than likely going to damage the freewheel or damage your tool. So it's always best to get the correct tool, even if not the park tool, to get some kind of cheaper alternative, especially if, like my old one, it was completely rusted on. That took quite a bit of force to get it off. So take a look at the park tool video, make sure you identify which correct tool to use, and hopefully it should be fairly simple. So now I'm going to get this back on the bike and finish the video of overhauling this bike. But please let me know if there are any maintenance jobs or anything that you want to know how to do, and I will try my very best to get a video out for them to give you a few tips and advice. Now, I will just say the next couple of videos that I do will probably be very fixie related, because that's what I'm dealing with at the moment, but they should all be fairly universal videos that you can transfer over to any bike, road bike, gravel bike, mountain bike. So hopefully you should still be able to find them useful. But anyway, let me know what you think of this in the comments, guys. Is this a worthwhile series? Is there something that you want to see? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.